Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we are back with the Nvidia Shield TV, and we're going to be looking at some retro gaming on here today and some emulators. And I love retro games because when I was a kid, these games were new. The Atari, the ColecoVision, and a whole bunch of other stuff in the arcade. So I'm just going to step through a couple of things that I found that I thought were rather interesting. And we're going to start with something here called Gamesome. And what this is an emulator front end that I found for the Android platform, but it's compatible with the Shield and other Android TV devices. And what it does is it basically organizes all of your ROM files by system, and you can assign one of the compatible emulators that would run those systems games, and puts all those ROM files together, and then it will launch the games for you. So for example, we'll pop into the Atari 2600 here, and I gotta just, there's a little bit of a glitch on the interface here, but once you push up until you see the cursor kind of get back on the screen, you can then move it around. So a little glitch, but nothing, not a deal breaker. And we'll go over maybe to asteroids or something here. There we go. And just pop it up. And what it'll do is actually load up the Robert Bruglia Atari 2600 emulator right off the bat. So you don't have to actually go and load his thing up. You can just select it from the list like you just saw there. And then when you're done, we can go and just tap the back key here, say exit. And what it does is it dumps you right back out to the menu here, which is pretty handy. So really nice interface. This is very similar to the Nostalgia app on the Ouya. And I've been using the Ouya a lot for retro gaming, and I've done some videos on that before. Great system, but you know, when you get into like the Nintendo 64 and the Sega 32X and some of the more demanding things from an emulation standpoint, that system kind of fell short. This one doesn't. So I'll show you some other examples of how well it runs. We're going to scroll over to the Sega 32X now, and you can see just how well Virtua Racing runs on it. Now these games looked great back in their day. Unfortunately, they don't look so great now. It's not the fault of the system, it's just times are a-changing. So we'll just load up a quick game here, but you can see it's running at the full 60 frames per second here, so it gives you an idea of how much horsepower you have available for emulation. So we'll go ahead and just select Virtua Racing here, get our little car going here, select the track, and have the guys change our tires out. I'm not sure why they're changing the tires when we haven't actually started racing yet, but you know, I guess they've got work to do. So there we go. We'll hit the course here, and as you can see, it really looks quite nice here, and the sound is pretty good too, and it really is a nicely performing emulation experience on a system that never really in the past on some of the Android devices I've used, at least the TV devices, really couldn't emulate it so well, and now it's doing very nicely here. This is running on Pico Drive, and that is running through the RetroArch emulator, and I set up that emulator to link up with that Gamesome front end and got everything working there. So really nice from the standpoint of ROM organization as well as performance for some of the more demanding consoles. And now what we're going to do is take a look at some demanding arcade games with Street Fighter Alpha 3. Here we are running Street Fighter Alpha 3 on our MAME for Droid emulator here with the Shield TV. And as you can see, although I'm not playing very well, the frame rates are excellent on here. I can die faster in this game now than I could before on the Ouya, so much better gaming experience. Just from the standpoint, of course, of the processing and the ability of the system to handle the emulation of a more modern game, but also because the controls are so good. You know, this controller is connecting via Wi-Fi. I stated incorrectly in my initial review that it was Bluetooth, but it's actually a Wi-Fi connection to the console, so it's got less latency and less things that can kind of get in the way of having a button push kind of translate onto the screen. Now I am connecting it to my TriCaster and then outputting this monitor from the TriCaster, so there's like a little bit of a frame delay. So it's actually on my regular television it's noticeably better, especially with these retro games that really depended on the controller being hardwired to the hardware. It really feels as good as that, and I'm really impressed with how well everything is running overall. Now, a lot of you wrote in about the Sony PSP emulator. It's PPSSPP on the Android platform, so I installed it on here, and I loaded up God of War because that was something that everyone wanted to see operate on the console. So I'm just going to turn the volume up here real quick and you can get a feel for what you're looking at. You're seeing the frame rate in the upper right-hand corner, so it is running pretty nicely. In fact, this actually looks better than the PSP I remember playing with, so I think it's doing some enhancements to the graphics that I think we might be able to turn off to get a better frame rate out of here, but not bad. I mean, it's certainly bogging down occasionally when there's a lot of stuff on the screen, but it's playable. It really is, and I don't know, I would imagine on the Ouya, I never tried this on the Ouya, but I would imagine on the Ouya it's not going to be as good as what you're seeing here. So this is definitely an improvement from other systems that really couldn't handle this kind of emulation. And as you can see, it is running fairly nicely. We're not dipping too far below 30 frames per second, but maybe not as good as you might see on a PC. Now, if you don't want to fuss with the front end, you can just install the emulators and access them directly on the main menu. So I'm seeing now a lot of these emulators becoming compatible with Android TV. So all of these things here, I downloaded from the Google Play Store and just got them the normal way, no problem at all, and they just boot up just like that. So really nice that they've started to get more compatibility here. For the ones that are not compatible, like RetroArch at the moment, there's this sideload launcher, and I'm going to link to a video up above of my Nexus Player review because I show you how to set this whole sideloading thing up in that video, and you can check that out and get a feel for it. But basically what it does is it kind of allows things that aren't compatible with the Android TV to be compatible. So there's stuff in here like the RetroArch emulator that I can access through that booter here and just get into it. But also RetroArch does work with the front end, the Gamesome front end that I have installed, so I can get at it that way too. Gamesome, by the way, is free, but you can pay like $2.75 and get the ads removed from it. So you do have some options there. And the best part is that this ES File Explorer now works with the Android TV. So if you download an APK file of an emulator, put it on a memory stick and attach it to the console, you can load up File Explorer and install that APK that way without having to jump through a lot of hoops. So there's been a lot of good developments on the Android TV front in the last couple of weeks that make a lot of these things now more compatible. All right, I'm going to go back now to playing some Q*bert on here. I'm a big Q*bert fan. I used to play this for hours on my ColecoVision as a kid. And I also played it in my bowling alleys arcade, and they used to turn up the difficulty on it so far that they would just take quarters out of my pocket practically because I was just so addicted to this game. In any event, the Nvidia Shield is what we're talking about. And I have to say, this is an awesome console, really an awesome set-top box for that matter, because what this is doing is basically replacing what I had 2 or 3 other devices for. This does everything, and it does everything exceptionally well. The performance is great, not only for emulation, but even video playback. You saw in the initial video just how fast YouTube was. If you have a 4K TV, it'll support the 4K resolution on all of those YouTube videos as well as Netflix. It does great PC game streaming. We're going to be looking at next is the Grid service. I'm probably going to get that video up in the next day or two. And what that does is if you don't have a gaming PC at home, you can connect to Nvidia's gaming PCs and stream their games over the internet to your device. And these are high-end PC games that are available that way. Free right now. It's going to become a subscription service, but we'll spend some more time on that in an upcoming video. We're also going to look at some of the native games that run on the Android platform here with its X1 processor too. I think we'll look at War Thunder. Maybe if there's anything else that's coming out in the next week or two, we'll also take a peek at that. But if you're on the fence with this, don't be, because if you're really, you got $200 in your pocket and looking for something like this, this is going to check every single box there is for a set-top box, and it is exceptional. This is Lon.TV, and thanks for watching.